Hi, everyone. I thought I'd just stop in and say hi. It started week 2. Can't believe it. Things move kind of quickly in academia, slowly and quickly at the same time. Academia moves slow, time moves fast. This week is a little heftier of a load in material. It's covering one of the areas that have interested me a great deal. First of all, the nervous system in general has a great impact on what we would be doing as counselors, no matter what our role. Traumatic brain injury in itself is another big concern for the field. If you think about it, there's so many cognitive processes that we use in counseling to help somebody work through their feelings, their issues, their limits, all of those things. And some of those probably are not going to work with somebody who has certain kinds of cognitive issues because of an injury or an illness that's affected their brain. So it's an important one. I'll be honest with you, it's the one that I shouldn't say this. I probably avoided working with this population as much, not knowing that I was working with this population. It was very early in my career that I ever even heard of traumatic brain injury. We didn't have the concept in our field because I don't think anybody really either didn't realize how many traumatic brain injuries there were out there, are closed or open head injuries, but also didn't have a concept of what they could actually do about it. So we began to get training and start working in the area of traumatic brain injury. And now the language has changed. Everybody's using, they're making much more distinctions. I'm a little old school, so I'm gonna say. But I remember when it all started, I had this epiphany one day that it probably would be the disability that would bother me the most because for myself, because my brain has always gotten me in and out of everything. It's been, I read, I study, I learn. I have a love of learning as a strength. I can't imagine if I suddenly was challenged and could remember things. There's a lot of dementia in my family, so that doesn't help a whole lot. So when I forget things, I get a little wound up, forgetting that you do start doing that as you get older, or when you've got way too much on your plate. So this is an important one for therapists, counselors. I don't care what field you're going to be in. If you're a clinical mental health counselor, working in a private practice, working in a public agency, you're going to have people who come in with a head injury of some sort. Concussive injuries are a big conversation, or have been for the last decade, because of veterans. When they came back from overseas, they had been exposed to a type of bombs, etc., that were a little different, and they caused a vibration and concussive injuries that they probably didn't even realize they were getting at the time. And they had to be addressed, and rehabilitation had to be different for them. There's some information in this week about that, probably not enough, but I wanted to start the conversation with you about it. So I think you'll all find that there's going to be a disability area or medical area in this that takes you aback. You know, for a lot of people who are very athletic, they can't imagine being spinal cord injured and using a wheelchair for access. Although I was involved with a man who was paraplegic for a number of years, and he was a very good friend to start with, and he had accomplished major things. He was given an award by Jimmy Carter for Handicapped American of the Year. Swam all the time, played basketball, all of those things. It was different, but for many athletes, they're not going to be able to see that right away. So adjustment to disability, adjustment to injury is something that should be included in more counseling programs than just rehabilitation, because there is so much of it. So counselors need to understand what rehabilitation is all about. What does it take to recover to your maximum capacity? what are the emotional issues? How are the families dealing with it? It's sort of sad. A friend of mine who is, well, actually, somebody I worked with, I can say he's a friend of mine. I shouldn't say that. But he years ago, he ran a rehabilitation center in another state, and he's an academic now. And he would talk about the fact that a lot of the people who were in there were injured in a work accident or a car accident or something caused by somebody else. And they were litigating for financial compensation. And one of the things you may or may not learn it in our program, but there is an entire field of both lawyers and rehab counselors who work together to help people determine what it's going to take for them over the potentially the remaining period of their life. What is it going to cost? What is it going to mean for them? And to get compensation for that. Anyway, he talked about the fact that when the judgment came in and the check was sent in to the family and to the person who had been injured, the next thing that happened were divorce papers. A lot of times the spouse was not able to deal with it, but waited long enough to make sure that they got part of the money. I don't know if it could have been something that the family agreed on, the person with the disability agreed on, because one of the things that you'll find out if you're ever considering a marriage or anything like that is that somebody's medical care can become your financial burden if their resources run out. So there's a lot of decision making when it comes to injury, medical issues, but not even those just later in life, but at any point in life. So that's a little downer, isn't it? Not a whole. It's an interesting topic. The brain, the nervous system, how it all works. And for me, learning so much more recently about how much the brain can, things can be rerouted. I have a friend with whose child has an intellectual disability. She adopted her. She was born with that one part of her brain. I'm trying to right now remember which one it was. And she found the only specialist in the country who dealt with the kind of disability. She also has a vision impairment. She's blind and or considered blind. And the doctor was in Pittsburgh, and she brought her there, and she learned how to help her daughter's brain rewire to compensate for some of what's missing. If I can get the video to show, she sent me a video they did at the newspaper because Maddie is now a runner. She's 13 and she loves to run. Barb said from the day she was born, she loved to run. And she's running with a severe, significant visual impairment. She runs with somebody else who runs with her. And so they did I'll see if I can find it for the visual, our vision exercise. She's a doll baby. She really is as cute as button. This is awful, but it's actually kind of funny. A number of years ago, a friend of mine who I went to school with, she gave birth to her first child. I was all excited. I went out, I bought these little Velcro bows. Back then it was a new thing for her, and all sorts of little outfits, and the bows I loved, and I sent a bunch of them. Her daughter didn't have much hair until she was 2 years old. And then when Maddie was adopted, I sent them the baby mobile that is supposed to help with vision in it. You're getting there. You're going to know what I'm talking about, right? I went out and got one that had the WVU bears on them, and it played country roads or something like that. Yeah. And her daughter has the vision impairment. She can't see it. She can hear it. She could hear it and probably see some of the motion. But I thought, you need to stop sending birthday presents. Baby presents. They seem to have a telling effect or an impact. Anyway, I'm trying to think of what else to tell you. The session, this course, this particular module, your textbook is your primary resource. That is, Donna and her friend did a beautiful job with this textbook. I would keep it if I were you. I would just keep it because it'll give you lots of resources as a counselor, no matter where you are. That much of the testing will be from the book. I wanted to reinforce the learning in the lecture, so there's some written material. Some of it's repetitive, don't get me wrong, but I do know that sometimes people have to hear it 7 times before they learn it. I do. And I've got video in there that can't be provided in a book, video and some audio things, some simulation where you get to play and move the brain around and check it out, as well as some resources and tools for you to use as a counselor, working with different people. We'll learn a little bit about assessments and get a copy of the Glasgow scale just so you can see what it's all about. And then of course, so all of them, I'm trying to get all the learning strategies in there that I'm an experiential learner. That's the best. I have to do something with it. I have to write my notes down or highlight my textbook or underline it or whatever in order to cement it into my my thought process, my memory. And I love to read. Don't get me wrong, I love to read, and I read for fun a lot, but I can tell you a lot about some of the books I've read over the years. I can tell you that a lot of the ones that I find to be the most important are highly, they're tagged and they're underlined and a little bit of everything. Things like the Book of Joy, Matthew Ricard's book, Altruism. There's a number of those. If you pick them up, if I ever lend them to you, you have difficulty really reading them. So use any strategy that cements the information into your brain. If you're an auditory learner or a visual, I'm trying to give you a little bit of everything so that you can enhance the way you go about learning. Discussion forums, even though I can't ever think of really, I could, if I was standing up in front of the classroom, think of lots of things to talk about, and we could bat them back and forth and get going with the discussion forums. Just don't quite do it for me. I think if you'd want to, periodically, we could probably all get together and have a classroom conversation on Zoom if you'd like to. I did it one year. It was kind of fun. Trying to think of what else I might want to tell you. Just relax, and you're going to have a quiz at the end. I'm fine with open book. You have to know where everything is in order to get to the question, to answers to the questions, because they're timed. And I've got a calculation for what's the appropriate amount of time to allow for people to answer questions. And I kind of follow that. And then, but I give you the ability to, you're going to have to know your textbook. You're going to have to know where the materials are that you can access. I think that's it for right now. I'll try to pipe up in every week and maybe even during the week, periodically. We can also remember that you can ask to talk to me at any point if you want to. I'm supposed to have office hours. I think I picked out Wednesdays from 10 to 1 or 2 or something like that. But frankly, I would prefer to just meet when you need to meet rather than you having to wait for another week to get to my office hours. We're a little different then. And I will tell you, I'm going to repeat it over and over again. I am very much trying to enhance my self-care these days and not work on weekends. I have a bad habit of that. I work odd hours. It's 6:34. I just came down to do this. Sometimes I take an hour or 2 in the afternoon to do something different than work in the evenings. It's the nice thing about my job is I can move it around. I just have to, but I've learned that I need to protect the weekends. So I'm not going to answer your emails weekend unless I, by chance, feel like I need to make up for time that I didn't have during the week. But don't rely on it. Okay. Enjoy the information you're going to learn. I put a little not personal stuff, but a little factual stuff about people who had some sort of brain injury in their life and what it was all about. If you have more, put it in the discussion postings. that are down at, that are woven into the course, whatever it may be. Where I've got like, do you have any questions? Just put information that you've learned, okay? Because it's nothing better than getting shared information. Have a good time. I'm looking forward to working with you throughout the week and the rest of the semester. It's going to be interesting. And like I said, feel free to give me a call if you just want to say hi. All right, take care.